This is the invitation for today, and we are from Agile Lean House, a small company in Denmark. I'm Anne, and Jacob is here, and Kurt is here as well, and we'll do this together today. The topics for today, we're going to start with a little check-in, a little possibility for giving your opinion on something, and then we'll talk about collaborative estimation. Kurt will provide a suggested definition and ask for your input on that. Then he will talk about the case for estimation, the challenges of estimation, and I will talk about the 4 different approaches to do collaborative estimation. Then we planned an exercise for those of you who want to participate in that, a business value estimation exercise where you get to play stakeholders. And then we'll look at that. What does that give us? What, is it helpful? What kind of data and overviews does that provide? And then we'll do questions and answers at the end. So Kurt, I think you can take over and do the first bit.
I will do that. So whenever you start an online meeting or activity, it's a good idea to check in. Well, it's actually a good idea also to check in when you're doing it physically, but it becomes more natural. So tonight we'll just take a quick look at how to focus on the subject at hand. And I would like to give you this quote. It's accredited to Mark Twain. It's probably not true that he actually said it, but he could have said it. It is very much his style. But have a look at this quote. Reflect on it for about 20 seconds. And what does that make you think? And what does that have to say about our struggle for predictability and estimation? So have a look here, and 20 seconds from now we'll get back and hear if there were any inspirational thoughts popping up. So that was probably about 20 seconds. Anybody got a bid on this? Did that make you think of something? Any comments?
Well, I think that one of the dangers of saying you're trying to estimate and you have some assumptions on what to kind of go for in the estimation, it's like the blind people touching an elephant. If you don't have a full picture and you have refined the things so you know what you're actually estimating, then you're in deep trouble.
Thank you, Jane. Yeah. Other ideas?
I have a comment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that what you know for sure that ain't so. That's another word for we do as we normally do. So if you just use your normal standard habits, you get the same result as always.
Yep.
So that's you have to be more curious, and I would love to say you have to wonder why.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you for that. Any others? Insights?
Well, there's also there's a well-known study, the Dunning-Kruger effect, where people think they know a little bit about something, or know a single fact about something. They think they know a lot more than they actually do.
Correct.
So
Yeah. Yep. Very good as well. Yeah.
And I'd also add, Kurt, that I think human beings are inherently flawed, and I can tell you that as I get older, I swear blind I put my glasses down somewhere but can never find them. So they're never where I thought they were. So.
Right. Yeah. Anything more? All right. Well, let's say that was enough just for getting our focus on the subject of tonight, and it is relevant because that's what, as I hope we can demonstrate when the evening unfolds, that we are with the ways of estimating that we're going to talk about. You can counter some of this, and we'll conclude on it later. Mark Twain has a sort of humorous twist on it. It just ain't so. Yeah. And it's one of my favorite quotes, probably one of the ones that I think most of, that I talked myself into believing this, and this is what I know. Daniel Kahneman, he's a professor and he's a Nobel Prize winner. He puts it slightly different. He talks about our risks in misjudgment. He talks about biases and noise. But he says the biggest of them all, the biggest risk, is that we believe, and he uses that all over again in his books, what you see is all there is. What I have seen is all there is. How could there possibly be more? And it's something we really can't get away from, any of us. And therefore, we need other people's help, and we need this approach to it. So let's move on a little bit more and dive into what we have talked about and written about. And Anne has edited a little booklet that I believe you'll get a link to in the end, that try to summarize some of these methods, and called collaborative estimation. So what do we mean by that? Well, first of all, estimation methods that are designed to involve the right people, get the right people with the right knowledge on board. The team that is supposed to deliver, the customers or users that we need to understand what they really want or need or value. And there might be other stakeholders as well that have something to say about what we are trying to accomplish. A process to facilitate that people actually will contribute and give different perspectives. I've just recently read Stanley McChrystal, retired general from the US, a book called Risk, a Handbook. And he goes through some difficult situations, among those the Cuba crisis, and before that the debacle at the Bay of Pigs. And the big difference was, during the Bay of Pigs incident, President Kennedy failed to get other perspectives in, and he let the military run away with him, and he couldn't stop it, although everybody knew this was going to go terribly wrong, more or less. There was at least so much risk, but how do we get those different perspectives in? And the archetype for this, and what has inspired this work that we also have done, is the classic estimation poker or planning poker that I'm sure a lot of you know. And what is that? That is present and discuss. What is it actually we're talking about? Everybody votes to avoid anchoring, express their opinion, discuss the rationale for this estimate now. Why did I say so? Why do I think it's so big or so small or so valuable or so less valuable? And redo the vote, and then try and conclude on what do we actually believe in this team that is together. And some of the characteristics that we include in this is that we do relative estimations. We compare with known entities instead of trying to come up with absolute judgment, based on the fact that human beings are notoriously bad at estimating absolute. We're much better at comparing to something and just sort of coming up with an idea of how much bigger is it than that one. And then we estimate in ranges. We recommend that we have more than one number, never give a single number. And we advocate for simplicity, where you could, of course, drive this into extremes with describing how you think it evolves. Well, normally we don't know that much, but typically we can answer the question, what do I really think this is? And what is the worst case situation? and the spread or the span between those two gives those who have to decide. In Scrum, it's the product owner that prioritizes, gives them a really, really good indication of where the risk and uncertainty is. And we estimate several aspects of an item, or recommend doing that if you are in a project or a product development, or have the option of delivering a mix of things. The effort is always important. The cost, the money you have to pay for it is important. The value is very important and often forgotten or not done because it's too hard, it's too difficult, and we can't really get people involved. But you really should, because that's the other side of the fraction. I mean, not knowing the cost is not very helpful if you don't know what value it brings. And then the other thing that we typically recommend, just as a cross-check really, is to estimate complexity. And we'll get to that. So collaborative estimation is very, very well suited for complex work. We've talked endlessly about Dave Snowden and his Cynefin model. There it is down at the corner. The clear, obvious area where everybody knows that this is what it is. The complicated, where the experts can tell us what the facts are, and the complex, where we only have fragmented knowledge. And since I have some fragments and Paul has another set and Renee has a third set, we need to get together around the table or online and hammer it out and see if we can develop a common understanding. And that's what these methods are about. That's what collaborative estimation is all about. So again, asking those of you who are online here, what's your input to this? I mean, is it feasible to do this collaborative estimation? Does it bring value? What challenge would you foresee if you were try to do it? Any input from you guys? Of course, there are situations where people say, well, you don't need to estimate, you just get on with it and get over it.
Yeah, I have some input.
Yeah.
First of all, surely, I'm pretty sure this is a very good way to do it, and I have done it a lot of projects, so no doubt that it is working. But there's also a very important aspect of this, which you may not expect me to say, but it is actually, you can look at people's behavior here, because you will find people saying not a problem, and they just come up with a figure, and you find people saying, well, actually I'm not sure about this, so you won't get a figure for me. And that indicate different behaviors, where people that are very willing to take risks and do some actions to see what happens and fix it afterwards. Shit happens, we'll find something. And people that will not come up with the figures in the beginning because it could be wrong.
Yeah.
And the real case is here, it is wrong anyway. So it is a guess, and they are all wrong. But the difference in figures is based on your imagination, what it is. And it's your imagination we want to talk about. Yeah.
Very good.
So
Yeah.
it's also a matter of behavior, because the people who are afraid of saying wrong, they need a more psychological safety to come in with figures and realize it's okay that they are wrong. No, I'd be much more surprised if you come up with the right figures. That probably not happen.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Good. Thanks.
I think just a comment on this. I think that one of the things that can be both good and bad are that these estimation sessions can turn into very lengthy discussions. If at least if it's technical people discussing how much work is required, how much effort, that you can end up having a lengthy design discussion, which on one side is, I guess, okay, because it's probably needed. Otherwise, you wouldn't discuss it. But on the other hand, that maybe it was better in some cases just give your best shot and move forward instead of diving into all the details.
Yeah, I would certainly concur with that and say when you're in an estimation session in Scrum, we would say it's the Scrum Master that facilitates, and he would make the flow, keep up the flow in the session, and instead of, because you're in a context, and if you all of a sudden, oh, look at that, 3/4 of an hour went on discussing this single little technical item or big technical item, and people sort of lost the flow, and the estimates they come back to are not part of the same session, then I think that's the value point there. Any other comments?
Yeah, I would continue in that regard, because it also often happens if you are not actually refining your things thoroughly before you start estimating.
Yeah.
Because then you're actually not done discussing what is actually going in there.
Yeah, you're actually not talking about the same things.
It's like the three blind people trying to touch an elephant, right?
Yeah.
Everybody is very convinced on where they are.
Yeah.
But where I see a very good value in collaborative estimation is especially when you have a team of different experience, because it's easier to involve everybody when you're doing an estimation where everybody has to show until something is visible for everybody.
Yeah.
At least I have sort of both like very, very experienced developers and some just arrived a few months ago. And it's hard to get them involved if we don't kind of say, okay, everybody should have the same.
Yeah. Mm. Good. And remember, what we're going to talk about the rest of the time here is also that actually it's not just developers or technical people or those doing the work. Or we also talk about the value, which will involve the customer, the user, the stakeholder, and they're even less used to do this. So final call. Any more comments on this subject before we move? I think we have a tight schedule to stick to, and Anna is looking at me as if I'm already late. So I will keep moving here. Just very quickly, the case for estimation, you've already mentioned a lot of it. Do we really need it? But in a complex world, as business people or anybody who have limited resources, and that's about everybody I know, the more predictable we can be with both how we spend and what the value is of what we do, the better. So it's definitely a good thing to be more predictable. And improving common understanding, as Jane just said, that sometimes a precondition for being able to do some things about it is that we have the same mental model of what are we actually doing. So that's a key thing. This is not just to get the bloody number, out of this, but it's about reaching a common understanding of what it is, and that helps us improve our risk handling, judgment, and prioritization. The common mental model of what it is we're talking about, that we have the same narrative, story, whatever you want to call it, that we have common understanding, that's where it starts. And this is an excellent way of trying to achieve that. And the challenges, well, some of them we already came forward. There are the cognitive biases, systematic ways of wrong thinking. We all do it, but we don't do it exactly the same way. So if we sit around the table, I have my quirks in thinking, Paul has his, and Renee has another set. But if we get together, we can probably balance each other and keep each other out of harm's way to some extent. The same with noise. Noise is another thing. These are random variations that happen if you ask different people, and by sort of averaging across a group that discusses, the signal to noise ratio improves. Kahneman has also talked a lot about that. Psychological safety is a challenge. It's also mentioned, and I said that that's a precondition. People need to be sure of it's okay to be me here, and it's okay to open my mouth. It's okay to be heard. And I don't have to color my statement because there is a senior person in the room or something. so psychological safety has to be there. And before we can have an effective estimation, we need to implement or facilitate or help grow psychological safety. Some people don't like really to concentrate on it. They would rather just get on with it, and they think this is an unnecessary overhead, or it's boring, or, and again, we need to sell the idea that it brings value. And then there's an online challenge, and that's why we have labored quite a bit with this online tool that you'll see in a moment and we'll play around with. But again, we have to trust these people that we are together with, and that's about it. So Anne, that's yours, isn't it? So will you?
Yes, I will. Same slide. I hope you see it. So it might cover a little bit of some of the same things, but this webinar is called 4 ways to do collaborative estimation, and really it is sort of 4 approaches or aspects, I think Kurt called it, of looking at the same items or deliverable story, what the thing that you need to estimate. So 4 different ways of looking at it and getting information from a group of people about this, so that we gain more understanding and we get this common mental model to help us prioritize, to help us make decisions, or the product owner if it's in Scrum. So the 2 first ones, effort and value here, as has already been mentioned, the difference between these 2 is that with effort, it'll normally be the people who are going to do the work, who have the most knowledge about it. So they're the ones who can give their input on how much does this require to do. With value, you need stakeholders, customers, people who know something about the market, anyone with knowledge about how valuable this would be to create or prioritize. Complexity, Kurt showed the Cynefin framework before. This is a way of, when we discuss what kind of knowledge do we think we have about the thing that we're going to make or estimate about. Do we think it is simple, it's straightforward? Do we think it is complicated and we need expertise, or do we think it is maybe have aspects of complexity in it, so we need to experiment? Or is it chaotic? We don't know anything about it and we can't really predict how this is going to go. And this gives us something more than only estimating effort. This gives sort of another perspective on that. And the last thing is cost, where as we usually work with it, it's cost that's not already covered by effort. So it's not the pay for the team, it is other kinds of expenses connected to development. So how to do collaborative estimation. We sell these cards in Denmark, and there are others out there as well, where it's, as Kurt said, it's pretty common to do estimation poker with sets of cards where you all vote at the same time. The team each has its own deck that they have in their hands. We've added the complexity cards, and over on the top left, you see the Kano cards that I'm going to talk a little bit more on the next slide, which are used for value, business value estimation. So what you do, what we advocate for or suggest that you do, and what you also do in this tool that you're going to see in a little bit, is you see the story. In our case here, it'll be like a picture and a short description, and you discuss it so you understand the same thing, and questions might pop up, and that needs to be answered before. And then when everyone knows what it is, And like Jane said, maybe you finish discussing it before and then you're ready to vote. Everyone votes at the same time, but everyone votes for the expected scenario. What do we think? What is our sort of gut feeling? The first prediction that we have, and this might be vary among the group that is estimating. Often it is the person with the highest and the lowest vote that get to justify their vote and say, well, why did I vote like I did? Maybe this discussion changes someone's opinion and then you might want to revote if that seems necessary. After that is done, you do another vote, but this time it is on the worst case scenario. So what if it provides some kind of insight into how much uncertainty is there? It's the range that Kurt talked about. The range between what we think and what we think might be if this and this. Like if where you take the uncertainty included in your estimation. And then you try to approach a conclusion. Yes, and because we're going to do a value estimation exercise in a little bit, I'll just show you what kinds of cards. So all these 4 types of estimation, we use various cards to estimate with. Also in our online tool called Cool Estimation. It looks like this, and this is just a little graphic of what the card down in the bottom. You see the cards for value estimation, and the value estimation you use these numerical cards that are also used for effort estimation that follow the Fibonacci series, which is series of numbers where each number is the sum of the 2 previous numbers. So 5 is the sum of 3 and 2 and such. So it scales pretty quickly. And the reason for using these numbers is you want to have numbers that are not, that people don't sit and translate into something else measurable. It's still a relative measure, and it needs some gaps at the end so people can distinguish and make a guess without becoming too caught up in the details. Yes, and then we recommend adding these Kano cards from Professor Kano based on his theories and customer satisfaction to the value estimation. So there is the too big and too small. Too big means this should really have been broken down before we started to estimate it. It can't be estimated sufficiently with this big a size. It's too big compared to the others. Or it might be so small it doesn't really have a value on its own. It's not a deliverable in itself. It's not a specific item that has value. Or it could be an exciter or a reverse feature, something that an exciter is something customers will be positively surprised by that they didn't expect, and a reverse is something that they might be negatively surprised by. Or it could also be a must-have. This is better than like the highest number value because it's just something that should be there. You need a steering wheel in a car, or something. I don't know. Maybe you actually don't need that anymore, but it's something that you really need in a car. Yes. So when you vote with Cool Estimation, there are all these 4 different approaches or aspects that can be voted with. And I just showed you value estimation, what kind of cards are used. In the bottom here, you see the kind of cards we use for complexity estimation. Don't worry too much about the chicken. We'll explain later. And this is what effort estimation looks like, just to give you an impression of that. And then I'm going to introduce this little exercise that we'll do that you can take part in, or just watch and follow if you'd like. And we're going to talk about, or you guys are offered to be stakeholders on evaluating or estimating what kind of menu we should suggest to a wedding that is about to be held. Now, you need a little bit of background information to make the right, this is the market or the context of what you need to estimate. And it is we're in Malmö, in Sweden, at Hotel Mortensen, and they've been offered to cater or to host a wedding, and need to decide on what kind of main course options they should suggest to the family of the wedding or the couple. And we need your input on how much value are each of these things that we have in a list, that and that you don't need to choose one. It's about how much value you see in each of them compared to a baseline, and I'll show you. The background for the wedding is that it is an international wedding. It's a Swedish bride, a British groom. There's going to be about 95 guests, mix of family and friends. And so that you know a little bit about the style of the wedding, if you think that's important compared to the food, then there'll be a mambo band, lilacs and lilies as flowers, and a quite simple wedding dress. I'll show you, you'll see this in the system as well. I'll just show you some of the types of options we'll be estimating. This is now, Kurt also said that the important thing about this kind of collaborative estimation is that it's comparative. It compares to something else.
Relative,
and it compares to each other. And so we need a baseline that we've agreed on, where this is, so we've decided that salmon cooked like this is a 5. So the other options you need to compare to, well, if salmon is a 5, what do I think a burger is for a wedding, right? Or what do I think this chicken is, for instance? And Jacob will show you cool estimation a little bit, and then I think we will do maybe 2 breakout rooms, yep. Kurt?
Yes, I have created them.
Yeah, and we'll do a 10-minute exercise, and then afterwards we'll see what kind of data that provides, and you guys can help evaluate, well, what was that like, and did you gain anything from it? So Jacob, you can share a screen.
Yes. So I hope you can see my screen. This is cool estimation, and just to give you the background of it, the stories, the items that we are going to estimate have actually been, they're here in our system Agemba, where we can manage and plan them, where we need to estimate them. So I have exported them from Agemba, and then inserted them into cool estimation, imported them as a collected a collection of stories with their description and pictures of each of these menus. And we have cheated a bit, so we have already estimated them from the other aspects that Anna was talking about. So we've already carried out an effort estimation, us in the kitchen team, and the results of that estimation is shown here. You can see the individual votes from the different people and the resulting vote, and you can also see the resulting votes showed like this in a chart. And we've done that both for effort and complexity and cost. And what we're going to do now is to estimate value. And this is, as Anna said before, we're going to have 2 different breakout rooms. So we're going to separate in 2 groups of stakeholders. And each of you are invited to join either on your desktop or on your mobile phone by entering this link or scanning a QR code I'll show in just a bit. And then what you will be able to see once you enter is this list of stories, and then I and either Anna or Kurt will be the facilitator of the other group, and we'll go through these and try to estimate them. Okay?
Yeah. So should we
any questions before
we jump into the rooms? So quickly, room 1 will be Anna, Atle, Balas, Jakob, Sondre, Tom Miller, Seth, Sophie, and room 2 will be David, Connor, Jane, Lucas, Paul Norton, Renee, Toby, Elliot, and myself. So with that being said, we will head for about 10 minutes of this, and we will be opening all the rooms now. There we go.
And then just share my screen. So this is where we ended in our session with the meatballs. None of the people in my group were very true to representing the Swedes, because none of the people there were in favor of Swedish meatballs. But we didn't manage to get through all of them. But if we end the estimated result here, we can see all the results of our session was that some of them were lower than the grilled salmon, and then when we came to the stuff with beef in it, there were at least some people in our group who were very much in favor of that, but none of them were unanimous. If we go out here, we can see all the estimation results for all the people who have estimated, and again also see it like a chart here. We didn't have anyone who voted must have, and then I can take these results, provided that this is the one we go with, and export it, and if I want it back in my system over here in Agemba, I can update all the values and have it set here, and even have my aggregated estimates update. So I think I'll hand it over to you from here, Kurt.
Yeah, time has been running, so why don't we do it this way? And you do your dog and pony show at the end here, and then if people want to hang around after 8 o'clock, I have just an extra slide to show how you can utilize the exported data in different and interesting ways. So Anne, up to you.
Okay, sure. I will just share my screen. So first of all, I have a next webinar will be Tom Miller, who's also present here, and Kurt again. In 2 weeks and 1 day's time, they will be talking about crucial conversations and conflict resolution. I'll put the text up in the chat.
I will be Tom's humble wingman.
Yes. Tom is a trained crucial conversations trainer,
person.
I think.
He's a crucial conversionist.
Oh, I went too far. So as mentioned in the beginning, we're from Agile House, a smaller company based in Denmark with a Danish, not with an international outlook. We're based on Scrum, Agile, and Lean. That is sort of the what we are sort of building on, and what all our products and services stem from. We offer education, assistance, and tools. We have a set of courses that you can find more at this link on agileinshop.com or on our website, agileinhouse.com. And these are all like one-day courses that can be put together. We have a set of tools. You saw cool estimation today. You also saw a little snippet from our bigger workflow tool, Agamba. Both of them you can get free trials if you'd like to play around with it more or try it out with other people. And agile cards can be bought and shipped in Denmark. Yeah, and Agamba was here at the end. I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very good. Actually, if you want the cards, we have some in other countries, and we'll send you a deck if you want them. Paul has some in the US, and there are some in Norway, and some in Czech Republic, I think. But so it's a crazy expensive to send little boxes like that across the borders when you're not Amazon. So we can facilitate you, help you if you want. So with that, I think we will. Here, if there are any questions that came up during the estimation, anything you would like to touch on before we close down in a few minutes? Of course, it's interesting for us to know whether you think a tool like that will actually open up the opportunities for doing this online. We know it works with the cards, right? But will this do the trick to make it move it into the online world, which we more and more need?
So Kurt, my thought on that, in particular with regard to the value estimation, is that you may have a team that's going to evaluate certain aspects of the project, but you may want other people to be involved in evaluation of the value of something, possibly customer, for example. So if you've got a tool like this, then it gives you the option to involve other people who are not necessarily involved in the development of the product, but people who have an opinion on what creates value for them, for example.
Yeah, we've touched upon that before, and we do it all over in the training. It's a sorely missed discipline, actually, to get into project to really be concerned about. Does this really bring value to those people we're trying to serve? And of course, everybody says yes, of course it does. And then we say, have you asked them? Oh no. Okay, maybe that's a good idea, actually. So that's, I mean, that's the key. And definitely when you work with, if you're in a product development setting, one way or another, your stakeholders are probably all over the place. You can't get them together in a room and do these things. It's cost prohibitive. And so doing it online, and if you've got any ideas for how we could make this more useful, please let us know. It's still early days for us. The platform that we built on is extremely alive, and a lot we can do with it, also with relatively little effort. But again, we need to ask those people who use it, does this actually help you, or should we do something different? And I think with that, we will sort of formally end. If anybody has to run away, then by all means. But if it's okay, I will just try and show one more slide that is an extension of this discussion. So
I have one little comment.
Yeah, good.
In regards to cool estimation, one great advantage is that, at least for me, I have not co-located teams. And it's a lot better to, instead of showing physical cards on a camera, which you can hardly do simultaneously, here it's a lot easier because you can just wait till everybody filled in, and then just say, okay, well, we're waiting for you, so put something in.
Yeah.
It's a sort of great tool for luring out estimations, and at some point I think people will kind of get used to it, and it's just a way of working.
People are traditionally scared of estimations because they're afraid that basically they're sitting on the hot stove now, once they've given an estimate, and that sooner or later your ass is going to feel it, and someone's come after you. And by allowing people to be part of a team, it's a team effort, that takes away some of that pressure, to give them the range that they're allowed to express their uncertainty, gives them greater psychological safety. So I think it will help also, but it may take some time to get used to, and then you see that it's really an advantage, that this is a way of getting a discussion going. Like so many things we've talked about before, liberating structures, for example, are structures for running meetings that open up the space for people. And this does something similar, I think.